For the last few weeks, I've decided to once again embark on the adventure that is vanilla World of Warcraft. As someone who is extremely excited for official classic World of Warcraft servers releasing summer of next year, I wanted to make sure that the love I had for the game all those years ago wasn't fueled purely by nostalgia and no other redeeming qualities. Suffice it to say, I couldn't wait until next year, so I decided to roll a character on a server that I've heard a lot about. But before I go into detail with my experience on that server and with vanilla as a whole, I want to give you guys a bit of background in regard to my history with World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft first released when I was about 11 years old, and it actually wasn't my first MMO, as I had played some prior to WoW's release, mostly the Korean free-to-play 2D MMO MapleStory, as well as a little bit of RuneScape. It caught my eye due to having played and thoroughly enjoyed other games from Blizzard, things like Warcraft 3 and Diablo, not to mention Warcraft's ads and marketing in general made it super hard to ignore. I ended up giving the game a try, and I was immediately hooked. My first character ended up being an undead warlock, which, if I remember correctly, I leveled to around like the mid-20s before I decided to reroll a human rogue on the Alliance side. Back then I had a very basic knowledge of the game like most people. I knew not to keyboard turn or click on spells actually, but that was pretty much it. I had no clue what gear I should be wearing at max level, what pre-BIS or BIS in general meant, and certainly no idea how to go about acquiring this gear. My talents must have been all over the place, and I definitely had no idea how to min-max my character at all. Admittedly, I never truly got into raiding until the Burning Crusade dropped, which is why I'm super excited to revisit the game as an adult and experience all of this endgame content I didn't see when it was first relevant. Since then, I've actually still been playing WoW throughout all of its expansions, but I do have to say that Battle for Azeroth is the first expansion that hasn't really gripped me, and thus I've stopped my subscription for now. I would definitely say that my priorities have shifted over to Classic WoW, especially now that we know we're getting official Blizzard-supported servers summer of next year. Now that that's done, and you know a little bit more about me and my history with World of Warcraft, on to my experience with the first 30 levels on a vanilla PvP server. Now, the very first thing I want to focus on in regard to my experience with vanilla after not playing it for so long is questing. And if you're a retail player or a classic player or anything in between, you know how integral questing is to the World of Warcraft experience. In my honest opinion, the vanilla questing and leveling experience is second to none. It's amazing. It's super fun. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it truly is an adventure. If you've watched any other content creators who compare retail WoW to vanilla WoW and the leveling experience between the two, you'll know that they always bring up topics like, oh, it was super slow, it was super grindy, it took forever, which is true. Don't expect to get to level 60 unless you play for like 15 hours a day within the first 2 weeks. It's going to take months for most people, and even longer for those who have a job, a full-time job, or are going to school, or both. It's going to take quite a while, but honestly, there's no rush, and you should honestly enjoy your experience with vanilla WoW, especially if it's your first time. If it's your first time, don't worry about looking up vanilla guides and, you know, going to the most optimal quest and the most optimal route for those quests and all that stuff. The leveling experience is one of the best parts about WoW, and I truly wish I could see it, you know, with fresh eyes. Or as a first timer. I'm truly envious of people who get to play vanilla Warcraft next year and have no experience with it, because it really is super fun, and it brings you back to the days of old MMOs. And I remember the first time I ever played World of Warcraft and checked the map by pressing M and zoomed out and noticed that there's 2 continents and all these different, you know, separated lands, and they're all so different looking, and it truly is an adventure, and I forgot just how fun it is until I decided to re-roll on this server. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. So the things that make vanilla leveling super fun are that enemies are a constant threat. There's never a point. If you're leveling, obviously if you're 20 levels above a mob or above mobs, you're not going to feel like you're underpowered, but when you're starting off, especially those first 10, even 20 levels, if you're playing something like a warrior, something like a rogue, and you're playing solo, you don't have any friends playing with you or anybody on your friends list that's like a healer or something else to help you level, you're really going to feel how punishing it is if you pull even just 2 mobs, which in retail WoW nowadays, 2 mobs, you could use the restroom and let your character, you know, auto attack, and you're going to take those mobs out easily. But back in the day, if you were a warrior and you pulled 2 mobs and you were like level 10 and you didn't have anybody to help you out, you were done. You should start running pot if you can. Same thing for rogues for the most part. Rogues are my main class actually, along with warlocks, and it's actually why I decided to roll Warlock on this particular server instead of Rogue. I don't have anybody who's currently willing to try out vanilla WoW on anything less than an official server. So I'm playing primarily by myself. Notice I did say primarily because if you're an antisocial gamer, if you're expecting not to group up with people, or you just want to go in there and be a one-man army and take on every quest by yourself and all that good stuff, that doesn't happen in vanilla WoW. That's not a thing. The most you could do is roll a Warlock or a Hunter, and you can do some elite quests that require 3 or more people usually. You can get away with doing those solo, but even those, there's some that are just ridiculous, that are just nearly impossible by yourself, especially if you're not those 2 classes that I mentioned, so Warlock or Hunter. If you're like, I don't know, say a priest or something, you're not going to solo those elite quests that you get even early on. It's really hard as some class that doesn't have a pet or something to kind of like, throw the threat off of you. The other thing that makes it super fun is that, at least in my experience, in the Barons, I am leveling on the Horde side, as you guys can see, an Orc Warlock. At least in the Barons, I forgot how varied the quests are. You can boil it down to just killing and collecting, but I was having fun exploring. I hadn't seen the Stagnant Oasis or the map around like the Wailing Caverns for years, because that was all destroyed by the Cataclysm. After Cataclysm, like that, Barons is just completely different. And I was just having fun exploring, leveling up my professions, getting my herbalism up, doing all that fun stuff. And I felt like they were super varied. Every 2 levels, I could go back and there'd be new quests unlocked. And I had my Voidwalker and Succubus quests to do. There was group quests. I ran Wailing Caverns. I ran Ragefire Chasm. I was having fun, man. It was a super fun experience. That's kind of taken away nowadays in retail WoW, when you can just queue up for looking for group for LFG, and you're just in Orgrimmar chilling with your fully decked out in heirloom gear. You're not worried about character progression, which I'll talk about later. You're not worried about talking to people. You just boom, queued up, wait a second if you're a healer or a tank, wait 5 minutes or more if you're DPS, and then boom, you go in your dungeon. Nobody talks, nobody says anything. There's no need for CC. There's no need to mark targets anymore. There's no need to even tank, really. I've done dungeons on retail WoW with like 5 DPS, and you can do it. It's a joke. It's so easy. I could literally just Voidwalker tank up until like level 80 dungeons. I've done it before. It's insane, but I forgot how fun it is to point out targets, and I fear one, the mage polymorphs the other, and we all focus down the main target that the tank has threat on, and then we take out my target that's being feared, and then we move on to the polymorph target. That's so fun. It's so fun to have to, even at low levels, even in Ragefire, even in Wailing Caverns, which are what, level 13 to like 17, and then like 22 to like 25 respectively. It's so fun to group up with other people and actually have a strategy and a battle plan, and have to talk to them and give them health stones and put the soul stone on the priest in case we wipe. It's an experience that I haven't had on WoW for a really long time, and that's one of the things that made vanilla special to me. The other is actually the danger of being ganked. So as I mentioned, I am on a PvP vanilla server, or sorry, vanilla realm, and I mean, nowadays I don't think anybody even levels from level 1 anymore. You just pay $60 and you get up to like nearly max level. But back in the day, there were no flying mounts, so world PvP was a thing. And I mean, it's not all fun in games. It's super annoying when like level 60s or like twinks even come up to you and gank you while you're questing. But it's super fun to always have that constant threat that's not just AI, like programmed mobs. I was most recently questing in Stone Talon, and I was in one of the, I forgot what they're called, but they're like the centaur creatures. I was doing a quest there with somebody else, and then a group of 2 Alliance came up, and we had like a full-on war there, man. It was insane, and that just doesn't happen anymore because, if there's any threat nowadays, people just get on their instant cast flying mounts and fly all the way up, so you can't do anything to them. But back in the day, man, before level 40, or even at level 40, even when you get your mount, there was no running away from fights. You would have to run away well before the person spotted you. And even then, man, I'll chase you down and I'll put Curse of Agony and Corruption on you and just let it tick down. I'll send my Voidwalker on you, like it's so fun to, duke it out in Ashen Vale. The other day, actually, there was like a full-scale like world PvP thing going on in Ashen Vale. It was insane. There was like a bunch of like level 15s and 20s and 30s and shit. It was insane. Everybody was there was dots everywhere. There was frost bolts flying everywhere. There was hunter pets everywhere, and That type of stuff is like what makes World of Warcraft feel like a world. It's something that I don't feel anymore, because most of the stuff now is like queue up. Okay, we finished this. Everybody's back in Dalaran, or that's where we were in Legion at least. And then we queue up for the next thing, and then and all these people are like, especially with Cross Realm, you don't ever talk to these people again. It's so rare that you make a friend on retail WoW nowadays, and you keep in contact with them, and you do stuff with them. Most of the people that I play WoW with are people that I've been playing WoW with since like TBC. I don't think I even have anybody on my BattleNet list that's like from the last 3 expansions. That's how bad it is nowadays. My friends list on my on this vanilla server that I'm playing on is actually more full with newer people than my old friends is, which is insane. I already have like 10 plus people on there from just running dungeons, or people who are super nice and have helped me with certain things and enchants, or what have you, like just cool people that I've met organically playing the game. And that's another main reason why I think old World of Warcraft classic World of Warcraft is much better than retail in that regard. And that goes into my last point, which is there's more of a sense of camaraderie. If somebody's getting ganked or in the process of getting ganked, I go out there and help them, man. Because I know, like, oh shit, it's the World of Warcraft. We got to help each other out. We're the Horde, we're the Alliance, whatever faction you are. You feel like helping out the other person, because you're like, oh, I know how shitty it is to get ganked, so I'm gonna help them out, and we're gonna take over this camp, or we're gonna take over this farming area or grinding area, and then more Alliance come, and then you got to call your friends, and then your guild. It's super fun, man. It just feels like a cohesive experience. It feels like this is the way that the game was intended to be played, where you're doing your own thing. You're an orc, you're a tauren, you're a dwarf, you're a human, whatever. You're out there doing your thing, but you might come across an opposite player on the opposite faction, I should say, and that's where the scripted go collect for whatever centaur hair is broken, and then you can make up your own experience, and then you can tell your friends, oh shit, when I was questing in Stone Talon, these guys came up to me, and then I called my friend, and we took them on, and then we took over that spot, but then they got their guild after us, so we had to call that's how organic, fun experiences are made. I think Warcraft nowadays is much too scripted. Everything's scripted, everything's segmented off and sharded off, and split up and instanced. It's too much segregation, and I miss the camaraderie. I miss the cohesiveness of that experience that vanilla gave to me, and I really forgot about that. I honestly, after playing WoW, since they kind of drip fed us content over the years, and if you've been playing for as long as I have, you don't even notice the changes until you go back and play the original incarnation of the game, and all those memories are like, oh yeah, this is how it used to be, this is how this works. You got to go back and get your spells. They don't just pop up in your spellbook magically. Like, that type of stuff I love traveling everywhere. I love exploring. I love running into the opposite faction. And that isn't to say every time I see anybody of the opposite faction, I'll automatically gank them. I've helped out an Alliance priest before that like had like four centaur on him or herself, and I've gotten them off of him or her with my Voidwalker and helped them out. And it doesn't always have to be a gank fest. It's just cool seeing other people inhabit the world, because that's how I feel the game should have been always. But anyways, guys, rambling on, let's get on to the next topic, which is going to be character progression. It's no secret that character progression is obviously a huge factor in an MMORPG such as World of Warcraft, and vanilla WoW allows you to feel the progression of your character extremely early on. Gear upgrades, even from things as simple as questing or professions or dungeons, feel significant, and going from gray or white gear to greens feels really good. And if you are lucky enough to get a rare or blue quality item early on, you're a big deal. Like, you're the man pretty much. You can go into RFC and flex a little bit to your party members. But in all seriousness, like, they provide huge boosts to either your health or to your damage or to your healing. Even as early as like I said, like level 15 or like even level 20, when your character is still relatively low level. Running something like RFC or Wailing Caverns, or even Shadowfang Keep, which is when a lot of people first see their first couple blue drops. It's a big deal, man. It's something that seeing a blue in World of Warcraft now is like, all right, cool, whatever. Like, how are you not decked out in epics already, pretty much, is the state of things in retail WoW. But back in vanilla, and what I'm experiencing on the server is that, like, if you have a blue, you feel good, you feel strong, you can physically and mentally pretty much see it in your character. Like, when I dot something up before I had, let's say, like my shoulder pieces, I would tick for like, let's say 20 on my Curse of Agony every second or whatever it is. After you get, fill in a couple of slots that you don't have gear on, so my shoulder pieces, you see that number go up 32, it goes up to like 32, 35, 40, stuff like that. It makes a huge impact, and it makes your character feel stronger, and that in turn makes you feel good. It's something that a lot of MMOs get wrong now. They just give you the best gear right off the bat and just make you grind to make that gear better. They don't actually replace that gear. They just give you materials or whatever to make it stronger, which doesn't feel as nice. I mean, yeah, you get to see like plus whatever, +5 or +11 on that weapon or that shoulder piece or that armor piece or whatever, right? But like, it's not as cool as getting like, going from a green dagger to like a blue dagger or like a blue sword. It doesn't feel as nice, and it doesn't feel as rewarding, even though the stats obviously might make you stronger or whatever. Like, it just doesn't feel... It doesn't have that placebo effect, that facade where it's like, oh shit, I just went from a green tier item to like a blue tier or a purple tier item, like an epic item. That's like ridiculous in vanilla WoW. If you have an epic at like even like level 30, that's like a huge deal. Like I said, just getting my shoulder piece from a quest in Stone Talon when I didn't have, my shoulder pieces yet was a big deal for me. I felt stronger. It made my character look cooler, especially because I'm playing an orc and they have the best appearance when it comes to shoulder pieces in the game. That's not debatable at all. Orcs are badass. And then also I happened to get a green ring from a random, chest, just random chests across the world, usually in like camps filled with mobs. I actually got a pretty decent ring early on just by chance, and that felt awesome. Like, that was before anybody else my same level had any rings. So I felt cool. I was going to RFC and I was inspecting everybody and nobody had rings except for me. So I felt pretty cool. It makes you feel cool. It makes you feel strong. It makes you feel, badass. So that's something that's missing in a lot of MMOs and RPGs in general nowadays. Moving on to the old talent system. Now, this is something I actually forgot about since I haven't played WoW in well over a decade. Or, sorry, not WoW, but vanilla WoW in well over a decade. This allows you to honestly make your character completely yours more than like the Azerite system or the artifact system even, which are the more recent examples of this. This old talent tree, like, you can mix and match, from all 3 specs. So for example, as a warlock, I can mix a little bit of affliction with demonology, or demonology with destruction, or all 3 if I want. It's a really cool system, and it really does make your character feel like your character. Obviously, there's going to be some talents and builds that as a whole are more synergistic with each other and provide an easier leveling experience, but the options are still there, which is the most important factor. Like, you can mess with your character and make it completely yours. It's something, like I said, that I honestly forgot about, because I don't remember when the last time we actually used that talent system was. I want to say Cataclysm or maybe Wrath. I don't remember, but it's been a while. And I was impressed by how much you could truly make your character feel like completely different to someone else's. And like I said, obviously there's cookie cutter builds that if you want to be top DPS or like really good at PvP and be all decked out in PvP, there's obviously builds that are catered toward that and made for that. So if you're one of those players that just wants to be the best at whatever they do, obviously you want to follow those. But for everybody else that just wants to like mess around or try some crazy combination of all 3 specs, or even, a hybrid dual spec, knock yourself out, that's available for you, which is awesome. The last thing I do want to mention are the professions. Now, this is something admittedly that I, as a kid, didn't give a shit about. Like, I don't know why, but I didn't care about professions at all. I think sometimes I would go fishing and do my cooking, and first aid, forget about it, man. I never did my first aid, which is really, really stupid as a rogue, since obviously you can stun, whether it's a mob or another player. When they gank you, you can obviously stun them and heal yourself while they're stunned. I was a dumb little kid. But yeah, this is something that I completely neglected when I first played vanilla, and now I'm going back and I have 2 characters that one character obviously is my main, my warlock that I'm leveling and focusing on, and the other one's just like a random rogue that I created just to have more professions and stuff. So on my main, I'm leveling tailoring and alchemy, and on my alt, I'm leveling herbalism and skinning. And that's mostly just to get some gold. Selling herbs is still like the #1 way to make gold, other than doing like, DM tribute runs and shit. But I don't think I'm gonna mess with that on a private server. But yeah, so I've been having an amazing time, making my own bags and potions, and being able to make bags and potions on a warlock already makes like they're already an extremely self-sufficient class, and having those 2 professions and another character just funneling in the materials to level them up is like ridiculous. That might be what I do when classic servers are officially out, because I can make my own potions, and then I have potions and health stones, and I have my own bags, and I can focus on leveling my tailoring and have like the biggest bag possible, because one of my bag slots is taken up by the stupid soul bag. So that's the one drawback of playing a warlock, is, you know, you have way less room for drops and stuff than everybody else, because you have to use a soul bag. Like you pretty much have to, you're forced to. So yeah, professions have been a blast to level. It's a whole new aspect of the game that, like I said, I didn't really mess with as a kid. So it's cool to see that. It's cool to make, you know, I've been leveling first aid, which is super important, as I said, even for a warlock. I don't know if you guys are going to see this in the video, but you can pretty much never drink or eat as a warlock, especially if you're undead, because you have cannibalism, then you have health stones. And then, like I said, if you're an alchemist like me, you can make potions, and then you have life tap to turn life into mana if you need to. Then you have first aid to get that health back. You have stuff like life drain and siphon soul, I believe it's called, or life siphon, sorry, that you get later on. So you're one of the most self-sufficient, self-reliant classes out there. So again, if you're not going to play with like a set group of friends, or you want to be as antisocial as possible for when classic servers are actually out, then maybe consider rolling a warlock. And that's pretty much it, you guys. I mean, I think I've covered everything that I really have done so far. So like I said, I've ran Ragefire Chasm, I've ran Wailing Caverns. By the time this video comes out, I'd probably ran SFK already, or Shadowfang Keep for those who don't know the abbreviations. But let me know what else you guys want to see. I'm definitely going to be doing some more Warcraft content leading up to Classic. I think that's what I'm going to focus on my channel, actually. I do stream on Twitch as well for those of you guys who are new to my channel. Obviously, I can't stream the server that I'm on right now because it's not endorsed by Blizzard. So if they catch wind of my stream, my Twitch will get shut down, and I don't want that to happen. So let me know what else you guys want to see. If it's, you know, dungeon guides, because I know a lot of people... that's another thing I forgot to mention just really quickly. As a kid, I don't know what it is, if call it anxiousness or something, but I was legit scared to group up with people and do dungeons because I didn't want to fuck up. Like, I didn't want to mess up the run. I didn't want my pet to aggro random, you know, whatever, like extra mobs, and I didn't want to accidentally pull mobs. Like, I was deathly afraid of that shit as a kid. Obviously now I don't give a shit, and now I'm obviously a much better player, but back in the day I had like, the only way I can describe it is like anxiety for doing dungeons with other people and stuff. Finally, like, you know, that went away when TBC came out and I started raiding and stuff. But back in the day, man, in vanilla, I was deathly afraid of it. So if you guys want to see dungeon guides, if you still kind of feel like that, you don't want to mess up dungeons once Classic's actually out, let me know if you guys want to see commentated dungeon runs, or maybe some dungeon runs without commentary. I'm trying to think of different, you know, types of content to make. Warlock guides, maybe rogue guides, whatever you guys want. Those are the only two classes that I feel comfortable making guides for, and that's like beginner guides. That's not like top tier raid, you know, what do they call it, the cutting edge people. Like, it's not for people like that. It's gonna be people who, like myself, haven't played vanilla in years and are getting ready for Classic. So just let me know what you guys want to see. One last thing, if you are interested in keeping up with everything I do, make sure to follow me on Twitter. I'll have the link in the description, as well as my Twitch. If you're new to the channel and you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe and like and share it with your friends who are hopefully going to group up with you and play some WoW with you once Classic is out. Hope you guys are all doing well. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.